Howdy doodly doo. Welcome to another kitchen sink live croscopy where we're actually live in your face right now.
Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
Unless you're watching it later like a loser.
Oh yeah, exactly. Because you'll miss out on the chat. Yep.
So I think you had an idea today for a topic about
Yeah.
nomadic living, yeah?
Yeah. I've been kind of following. This has been an interest of mine for 20 something years, maybe more, like van life or whatever.
Hmm.
And I've over the years followed a lot of people who that's what they do. Some people do it like because of various things that happened, right? They got a divorce or whatever, and they had to.
Yeah.
Some people did it for the adventure, um, but there's a lot of people who they're professionals, like they have a job. They
Yeah.
just it's just affording a place to live can be really difficult. And one of the I think there's because of course we know shelter is typically the highest cost of that you put out, that you expend. And so if you stack on something else, they always say people are one paycheck away from bankruptcy, essentially. And so if you have like medical bills or some kind of unforeseen something or other, well, that screws you, like,
Yeah.
and for the most part, living in like vehicle living is quite a bit cheaper. And the big advantage, of course, is that you're mobile, right? If there's no work where you live, well, just travel to where the work is. It's like a modern hobo, basically.
Right.
And I think it's a I don't know. To me, it almost seems like a better way to live for a lot of people. Maybe not for families, but for a single person, sure.
I know a couple that does that. They,
Yeah.
they're like models and they travel the country
Hmm.
doing photo shoots in various different places because there's like no shortage of awesome landscapes across the US. So
Yeah.
they're
Oh yeah.
constantly going from, out in like Utah or something with all
Oh hell yeah.
the red clay and everything. And but like their kind of home base has always been like Washington or
Hmm.
whatever. So like they're
Yeah.
just kind of bouncing all over the place. And I think they even have like day jobs, like remote work day jobs or
Hmm.
something. So
And that's
yeah,
something thanks to
couldn't have done
Starlink.
that back in the day, of course.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's only really becoming possible now.
Well, yeah, because like Starlink, for instance, you could be anywhere, and as long as you have power and like a view of the sky, you have internet, and it's really fast. So yeah, there's a lot of people. Well, and there's a few YouTubers that I follow who live that lifestyle. One of them is actually starting a whole group to sort of coordinate places where people can stop and stay, because he's complaining because like more and more people are doing this, adopting this lifestyle. um
Mm.
he the government is starting to crack down on people staying in like federal lands and things like that, oh, we don't want people parked there and this and that. And so he's trying to create like a private network of private lands where people can go. And because essentially there's things change all the time with rules and legislation and stuff. So he's like, hey, maybe we can have a more stable kind of network of locations. And I've been talking to him a little bit, because I've got that big ass plot of land in Nevada,
Mm.
and I'm like, well, there's two easements that run through the east side, and then there's a little piece of land that it's like kind of not really that usable because the people would be driving through it. So I thought, well, why not cordon that area off to supply space for people to park and hang
Yeah.
out. And I think, I mean, that's good. I'm kind of excited about that.
Mm.
Uh, and to me, I've always, I know it's sort of romanticized, but I've always had kind of a fondness for the hobo life, like back in the 30s and stuff, riding the rails and the little
Yeah.
hobo communities that popped up and their whole systems that they had. And there's a YouTuber, Waypoint Survival, I think it is, who covers a lot of hobo stuff, and shows how the old ways they used to do things, and talks about that a lot. And it's like, I kind of like that because it speaks to like the community side of things that I really believe in.
Yeah.
And you know, and this is what government doesn't like about these things, is it breaks you away from their clutches, and not just the government but the corporatocracy, because like, you know, all these real estate companies, and you know, they're all their tax revenue and whatever. Oh, like, oh, you got to have utilities and all this stuff. And if you're out of that system, well, you can't be controlled or manipulated. You know, you're free essentially. And like, oh, you don't like the rules in this particular town or city, just pack up and leave. Like you're
Hmm.
totally mobile at that point.
I think the only problem would be like if if you need medical care, because that I know that can be kind of an issue, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe not so much like within the country, even though like state to state,
it,
technically,
it
like,
varies.
yeah. Um, but not just that, but like you know, your medical records and all that stuff
Mm-hmm.
being, I mean, it is possible. Um, there are electronic records and whatnot, but they don't, you know, the systems don't always talk to one another.
Yeah,
And you
that's
know,
it's been a problem for a long time. Yeah.
yeah. So I would recommend if there's like a private network popping up that, you know, like something like that be established where there's like kind of like a little medical kiosk or something that is it's got like the network infrastructure to speak to all these like my chart and stuff like that, like
Mm-hmm.
so that you could actually like be like, oh, you know what, I need to go to the doctor, stop at one of these places and be like, here's my name and my insurance card from whatever state, and they
Yeah.
like you know punch it in, they're like, okay, we have your medical records here, what seems to be the problem, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you can even have a little like pharmacy there or something, you know, like something like that would actually make it quite a bit easier for people to
Sure.
decide to live like that, because that's just off the top of my head one of those things that kind of keeps people grounded is
Yeah,
that
well,
can.
and especially if you have like some kind of long-term
Mhm.
necessity where you like you have to go to the doctor every month or something, and you want to keep that same doctor because they're familiar with you, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
This
Um,
would also be
that
great for
would,
people on vacation, you know,
yeah,
like then they could just
absolutely.
into one of these places, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, and that would be an interesting thing to develop. I think that would, you know, because it's like we just got to do it ourselves. Honestly, that's what it comes down to. And you know, just watching this guy's videos and some other people's videos and hearing their stories and things, it's like they're not doing it. It's kind of like, in a way, like he is often says, like it's not that they're doing it necessarily out of necessity. It's more because it makes the most sense. Like, why would you pay like two-thirds of your income just to have a roof over your head that also traps you, when if you had vehicle life, you're not really trapped. I mean, you can just go somewhere else. The only concern at that point maybe is a little bit of security and uh like knowing exactly where to go, because some places, you know, you used to be able to park at Walmart overnight in an RV or something. That a lot of them don't do that anymore,
Mhm.
except out in the country. You know, you get out way out into the rural areas, they generally are okay with that. But there needs to be more places where people can congregate, because like in back in the hobo days, the heyday of the hobo, um, they kind of had a network. There were like camps that were set up in
Mhm.
various places, kind of outside of town or away from the eyes of the public, and also, you know, just to not annoy people. So, and they'd get dressed up every morning, you know, clean themselves up, grab their tools, they go into town, they do some work. But there were established camps all over the place, and they were kind of more or less permanent. And that's good, you know, because there's security in that. And that, like, oh, I know that if I'm traveling here, there's like 5 different spots that I can stay the night and it'll be generally safe, and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And maybe even like, oh, I'll just leave my stuff here while I go to work, and everybody's going to look out for that because there's an interest that everybody coordinates and works together to do that. You can't, they're gonna kick the one asshole out who's like robbing and stealing and stuff like that and causing problems because, well, yeah, I mean, it causes more problems than just within the camp. Um, and I I think it's kind of given the trend, like where things are going with costs rising, housing just going nuts. Like it is really, really expensive. I mean, in the city in particular, like Tacoma, where I live, it's like,
Yeah.
holy shit, the price of housing is through the roof here. Like, I couldn't afford to buy a house. I could barely afford to rent one. And it's like, okay, well, the only thing I could do is change the game, change the playing field. Like, I'm going to play a different game now.
Yeah.
Um, and if I didn't
I
have the property as an option, I'd probably do. I'd be like, all right, I'm going to get an RV
yeah.
or something, like get a bus and convert it, and
I
just live
wanted
in
to
it.
do that when I came back from Memphis. It's just kind of it's actually like more expensive than you would think to
Oh, I know.
like
Yeah.
get started. So
Yeah, that's true.
that is also a big hindrance to it. It's not like it's actually cheaper. It's like in the long run, much
Mhm.
cheaper.
Yeah.
But it like for, if you're gonna like find rent somewhere within
Mhm.
your budget, you actually have a better chance of that, even with the skyrocketing rents, than you do of like buying an RV that's not going to break down on you in 6 weeks,
And that's, yeah. So you would, if you were mechanically inclined or something, and this is where I think this idea of the community is really good, because if you had, say, 20 people staying in this one spot, guaranteed there's some people who know how to fix things. Obviously, you'd have that, so people could help each other out and like, oh yeah, I can help you do that thing and this, and find parts or whatever. And you don't have to necessarily just use an RV. There's other options. People have used old U-Hauls because U-Haul sells their trucks, and they're, for what you get,
I knew
really
someone
cheap.
that did that for a while too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And one thing about that, it's stealth camping at that point. It's totally innocuous. If you have a U-Haul and you just park it somewhere for the night, right? Ain't nobody gonna like be all suspicious of that.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, oh, somebody's moving in, somebody's moving out, whatever. It's a completely innocuous vehicle. Same with like a white box van too. It's
Guerrilla
like, oh yeah,
nomad.
yeah, yeah. Well, I
Um,
followed a guy on YouTube for a while. He got a one of those box vans. It's basically a U-Haul that's white, so it's like a service vehicle. Um, and he worked at a mall, and basically he kitted out the inside of this box van. It was cool. It was like he had a fucking couch in there and like a TV and all manner of amenities. And
yeah.
basically he just parked in the back of the mall, and he'd roll up the door and go to work every day. And he's like, yeah, I saved a ton of money doing that because I got this van. I pay no rent. I pay no utilities. Like, he just
Yeah.
had a solar panel up there, and like, granted, mall food is probably not the best, but still, um, you know, and he ended up saving up a whole bunch of money that way, even working like a shitty job. Yeah, it's like minimum wage job or something, but that was more than enough when your overhead is really, really low.
Yeah, a friend of mine that did that, I think she was doing a lot of volunteer work with what's the houses like people who build houses
Oh,
and
Habitat for Humanity.
yeah. Yep.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, she was doing Habitat for Humanity and just living in a box van.
yeah,
So,
nice.
because
Well,
because yeah, like that is also one thing that keeps people from volunteering is like, well, you do have to pay bills.
pay the bills. Yep.
So,
Hmm.
um
Mhm.
yeah, like especially with services like virtual mailboxes, this
Mhm.
is totally becoming easier and easier. And the more I'm thinking about it, the medical thing should actually just be like private pay, services and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, you still need to be able to like log into the infrastructure and look at all that stuff if it is available. But it occurs to me like if a network like that existed
Hmm.
where people could just roam around, do odd jobs and not take up space in, like buying up housing or, taking jobs or whatever, what actually would be the problem with illegals if they just came into the country and lived nomadically,
Hmm.
just like not bothering anybody and did the odd
Yeah.
job here and there and moved
Basically
around and
travel around like the hobo lifestyle kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And basically they'd go where the work is, and it'd probably be temp work, and that can be, if you work as a freelancer, you can do pretty well for yourself, especially if you're mobile. Like if you're stuck in an apartment, okay, that could be a problem. But if you have the ability to basically take your house anywhere, um, then freelance living is perfectly functional. Like it could be quite a good life actually. And part what comes to mind too that I'm thinking of, it's like far too long. There's all this we've been propagandized to, and like by whoever, companies, by the government, by whatever. This whole notion of like buy a house, put down roots, have one spot. This is the spot, right? You're gonna pick a spot. You're gonna roll the dice and be like, all right, this is where I'm gonna live for the rest of my life or whatever, raise my family and whatnot. But it doesn't really make sense, does it? And you kind of you don't get, unless you're building your own house, you kind of get what somebody else already built, which may not be ideal. Like maybe,
Yeah.
oh, the only house you could find is a house that's way bigger than you need. So now you're paying more in property taxes, you're paying more in a mortgage, you're paying more in utilities. It's like it's only me and my dog, but I've got like a 4-bedroom house, like
Right.
that's stupid. So why not have something that's more kind of tailored to suit your needs?
Mhm.
Uh, and because I've come across I don't remember who it was, but it was a YouTube channel of like a family. It was a husband and wife and 2 kids and a dog, and they lived in an RV and just traveled around. And oh, I know how I came across it because I was looking up composting toilets, and they had one. They had the one that I bought actually, and because they were saying, oh yeah, we kind of empty it once a week or whatever, except for the urine container. They have to empty it like every day. But it's like, wow, there's a whole bunch of people there, and they manage that in an RV. But so that could be good too. And one thing to
I mean, to
consider.
be fair, you don't really get a totally modular uh, living experience with an RV
Mhm.
either.
That's true.
In fact, arguably far less. Like you can modify your house in a huge variety of ways, but you're kind of limited to keeping something drivable, let's say. So like
Yeah.
as far as like size and expanding upon the dimensions of the RV or box truck or whatever, you can't really do much with that.
Yeah, you're kind of limited by like the roads and
Yeah.
by the law, right?
Yeah.
You can't be like, oh, I'm gonna have a 70-foot RV, you know.
Right.
But I
I
mean,
mean,
they
you
make
could
the
add
ones
on trailers and stuff, but you
trailers.
also
Yeah.
have to be able to like actually tow it. So,
Hmm. Well, and there's RVs that have the pop out thing that expands, and I don't know if you've been in one of those, but
yeah.
it's like it's huge. It's like
Hmm.
holy crap, it's big in here. Plus, you also could have the awnings that extend, and you're sort of free to find your backdrop, like where you're going to live. So you're not confined to the RV. This is just your place to sleep, place to cook, place to get ready, hold, store your things, and to travel in. But then when you get somewhere, you can kind of expand and get a
Right.
little bit more breathing room, especially like out in the national forests and stuff like that. It's so I I kind of see it as like more people should be encouraged to do that. Like, and we shouldn't, because one of the things that I noticed, there's this stigma that we have in society where we kind of look down on people like, oh, you couldn't make it, huh? Or oh, pity the person because they just whatever. No, maybe they're maybe they're the one that's the winner. right? They figured out a cool hack, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean that is an appealing lifestyle, I will admit. Like I wouldn't mind doing that. The only thing, like, having looked into it before, like, apart from the initial upfront expense,
Hmm.
the only thing is, like, my particular, like, one creature comfort is like a music studio.
Yeah.
So like a very limited space with not maybe the best acoustics is a little bit of a deal breaker for me, I think.
Yeah, well, and that's like you said, a trailer. I suppose if you didn't need to have a second vehicle, having a trailer, you could have a studio that's a
Mhm.
trailer. Yeah, just like
Yeah.
a short trailer is probably more than adequate. But yeah, and maybe there could even be you could have a limited setup in an RV and then have like a rental, small little rental place. There's a lot of those all throughout the country, these little teeny tiny kind of areas where you can do business or whatever, that are really cheap. They're almost like the cost of a storage unit,
Mm.
or you could use a storage unit even. People have done that.
Yeah, I mean that's really bad acoustics.
Well, if you had like movable panels and stuff that you could set up, you might be able to make it work, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's places that are similar to storage units that allow like work to be done in there. This with like power and lighting and whatnot. Um, but I mean, there's definitely options. Um, yeah, it's just like, well, here's the goofy thing. If you think about it, right? People, here's the way we do it, right? The society, uh, for the most part, what they expect, right? You are born, you're with your parents, you grow up, you go to school, blah blah blah. You get out, you go to college, join the military, one of those two things or something like that, and then you're done with that, and now you marry somebody, you buy a house, you raise a family, you live in there for like a really 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 long time until the kids grow up and they move out. Now you're like the house is too big, so you sell the house, you buy an RV when you retire, and then you travel around the country. But it's not your prime years.
Yeah, yeah.
But people are like, oh, that's the dream, right? To finally retire, buy a big ass RV and just travel around the country, maybe even like, all of North America and stuff, to see all the sights and whatnot. And well, why not do it when you're young?
Yeah.
Why don't we discourage people from going to college and blah blah blah? No, go to a trade school, work in a trade where you can make six figures, eventually, and then you just buy an RV early on.
Yeah.
Like, why not? I it just baffles me that it's so backwards, right?
Pre-retirement.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and in a way, you kind of could almost retire
Yeah.
pretty early if you had that, because like you said, yeah, the initial outlay when you buy an RV is, well, depending, you could start off with a used one, and conversion vehicles too, those are options. um there was a YouTube channel that I was following. I don't know if it's still around or still publishing videos, but like, it was a kid. He started off when he was like 16, 15 or something. um he worked during the summers and saved up money and bought a trailer. And then he and his dad, it was like a flatbed trailer, a pretty big one. And he and his dad spent summers after that, and here and there, just kind of when they had time, weekends and stuff, building it out into basically a rolling tiny house. And his whole point was like, hey, to save money, I'm going to when I go to college, I'm going to live in this thing. and
Hmm.
and I'll build it while I'm still in high school, and then when I go to college, I'll have a place to live. I don't need to spend any extra money, just need a spot to park, essentially. And I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We need more
Victoria's here.
people.
Hello.
Hey, Victoria, hi. Hopefully you didn't miss some of the early stuff, because we covered a lot of really good things here.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if something like nomadic living would actually work here in Germany because it's quite common for a lot of places to put down a gate at closing time for their parking lot. So there's like and very, very narrow roads here. So
Yeah.
RVs are kind of rare to see. And when you do see them, they're very small. Um,
Yeah, that I think it's something that would only work in certain places, maybe
yeah.
not universally everywhere. There are people who live in a car too, or maybe a like a minivan, basically.
Yeah.
I know a lady that does that. She and her dog live in a minivan, and just
Hmm.
drive around and park in parking lots and stuff like that.
Now,
Um,
if there was like, now you were talking earlier about like a network of private land where people kind of network and work together to provide at least a place to park for some of this stuff, but maybe it would also be good to have a network of, like, um, I don't know if, yeah, I mean, like rentable
mhm.
tiny houses, like
Oh
short-term
yeah,
stay
yeah.
or something. So that there would be at
Hey,
least
old
kind of
rat.
like a more, oh, old rat, haven't seen you in a while. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, just kind of have a little bit more creature comfort and not so much a dependence on the upfront cost of an RV or the maintenance costs and the overall bulky nature of
Oh
driving one of those things.
yeah. So what you're saying is like people with land could build basically like almost like a little tiny house village where you could rent a space for the night or something. So you could
Mm,
just drive a car or a truck or something,
yeah,
and then you'd have an actual space to spread out rather than sleeping in like a back seat,
yeah.
you know?
Nomad BNB. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that would be possible. I mean, like with my property, it's absolutely possible. There's plenty of room there. So, I mean, I
mm.
think we had kind of, well, you and I had kind of chatted a bit about maybe creating a little resort or something like that once
Yeah,
things
I
are
mean that would be a cool
established.
idea. Like especially if, you know, there's opportunity for commerce there as well
Mhm.
because
Oh, yeah.
like then you can have like a little shop to get, milk and,
Hmm.
bread and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah. Well,
just to have
we
it
plan
all
on,
like in a nice convenient spot for these people and
yeah, well, we plan on growing crops too, and
yeah,
limited stuff or whatever you can grow out
your
there.
own farmer's market.
Yeah, exactly. Victoria commented up there, the issue with RVs, et cetera, is the assumption of functioning grocery stores, et cetera. I'm not sure how that, what exactly you mean by that. I know Casey and I, we were talking about maintenance as being a factor too.
Mm.
When you have a big complex machine like that, if you don't have a garage and you don't have any extra money to go take it to a shop, it's tricky to work on.
Well, and you have to with RVs, you have to have a place eventually to, you know, as National Lampoon said, shitter's full, like
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of places along the highway system where you can get pump outs for free or small
Mm,
charges. So that's it. Well, and some of the places, if you stay in one of the RV park type places, they'll do that. That's part of the thing of staying there.
Victoria
Now,
also said she wants to get a bunch of 1 acre plots up and down the East Coast and plant them out as food forests. That's a good idea.
yeah,
Like just outside of the idea of nomadic living, there could it would be nice to see more of like a global network of nomadic oases. You know,
yeah, for sure. Well, and around in Tacoma, we've got a bunch of these community gardens.
mm,
They're just little small plots of land, like maybe where a house would be, basically about that much space, and it's just like an open garden, which is pretty cool. Uh,
yeah.
that
Well, Randy, who was on the show often, Kitchen Sink, rest of his soul,
Yeah,
he did a lot in the community gardens in his areas. Yeah.
yeah, we need more of that, I think, for sure. Because Well, and I don't know if everybody caught the beginning of it, but it basically, all of this kind of stems from the idea of costs rising and housing becoming unattainable for most people, especially young people. Um, and
It's been
how
that way for a long time
it
too.
has, yeah, it definitely has. Even when I was young, it was like, woof, still pretty expensive, and then it's just gotten more expensive, exponentially more expensive. And so the idea is kind of like, maybe we ought to take a different approach to live like hobos, essentially, where you travel where the work is and where the resources are. With Starlink, you have the ability to do some digital stuff, work from home, or work on the road, essentially. Um, and and I think that's actually kind of a good thing. It's liberating, because one of the things I was talking about is how, like, the traditional method of housing, the concept of housing, is a trap. It's totally a trap. The government and businesses and corporations and stuff, they suck you in, and now you're stuck. And if you're mobile, well, they can't do that. And this is why governments and companies are pushing back against this kind of lifestyle. But I'd like to see it gain more traction and
Mm.
accelerate. And it seems like it is. There's like it, and this is the thing. It's not like, when you see the homeless camps where it's like kind of dingy, and it's clearly people have some mental health issues and stuff, and they're kind of living in broken down RVs. No, there's a lot of people, professionals, who work fairly high paying jobs, but they're like, well, housing is too damn expensive, so I'm just going to live in an RV and travel around, and I can still work, and it just makes sense. So it's like
Yeah.
it makes sense on so many levels. So it's like, even if you have a lot of money coming in, and you're like a single person, right? Or maybe a couple. It's like, why would you spend, a third, two-thirds, whatever of your income just to live in a tiny apartment, when you could be basically free to live anywhere? I don't
Yeah.
know. Hmm.
Well, the big problem is eventually, unless you figure out a way to government proof it, the government's going to come and try to squash it,
They
change it,
already they're
or
already working on that. That's the thing. Because
yeah.
you know somebody, you're paying tabs on a vehicle, and you're probably paying gas tax and whatnot as you travel. But what you're not paying is property tax, and that's where they make a huge chunk of their revenue. And I think it's very scary to the corporatocracy to start seeing this sort of trend happening, because it's like, uh-oh, if this catches on, we're fucked. We're
Hmm.
absolutely fucked. And so it's in their interest, I think, to kind of minimize it as much as possible, and crack down on parking spots and whatnot. Because I mean, you can most national forest areas, you can park a vehicle for like 10 days, I think, at a
Hmm.
time. But they're starting to more and more kind of, the walls are closing in, so to speak.
Well, and
uh,
usually you have to pay for that too, right?
Not always. No, there's areas that are kind of like parks or camps or whatever that you do pay. But if you just go down like a Forest Service road and find a clearing and park there, no, you don't have to pay at all.
Uh,
Yeah, you can just park there. But if they do see you, then they're going to take note of that. And if you're there for like months and months and months, then they're going to, the Rangers are coming out probably. They're going to be like, ah, you got to move on, man.
huh.
But the
So
problem, this is
probably
where
need some underground portions too to
Mhm.
keep people and give people their privacy from the electric eye.
Yeah, the Eye of Sauron. Well, and this is where I think this one guy's idea of having a private, people who have private land, being a part of this network, where
Yeah.
they're like, oh yeah, I've got a spot, I'm not even using it. Sure, y'all can just park over there, just keep it clean, and that's it. And
Hmm.
so that way you can go, once this guy gets his things established, you could just go to the website and look at your local area and see where the places are, and then like, oh yeah, I can go there. There you are. And I think that would be pretty awesome.
Hmm.
And yeah, but I mean, well, like we were talking about kind of at the beginning, is how we both have wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody caught that too, because I was brought up the point of how, the way you're supposed to do it is to grow up, go to school, go to college, military, whatever, get married, buy a house, live in the house until the kids grow up. Then you start getting old, and then you're like, the house is too big, it's too expensive. I'm on a fixed income. Then they buy an RV, and then they travel around. So why not flip the script, right?
Yeah.
Start with the RV. Then you don't have to have any of that rigmarole. Besides, a lot of people aren't even having kids anymore. So
Yeah.
having a big house is stupid. But because of the way things work when it comes to construction, there's kind of, it's for construction companies and realty companies and whatnot, it only makes sense to build big because of all the rules and costs, and there's a bunch of factors. But they build these big ass houses, and it's like, well, this is the only houses to choose from. They tear down several small houses and put one big one in and stuff. It's like, well, where's the starter houses? They're gone. Okay, well, now the starter house is going to be an RV, I guess.
Old Rat says people will take advantage and ruin it, and that's very possible.
Tragedy of the commons. Yeah, I mean, that's where you got to have some kind of, like, if you have private land and people are there, you do need to keep an eye on things and have some rules that people have to abide by. If you get a large enough community of like good people, they'll tend to self-regulate, but there's always going to be one bad apple in the bunch.
I feel like that is kind of the culture of the US, is to do things like that. Um,
Yes.
because I mean, I was just thinking, like here in Germany, like there's this one spot where we were just kind of like walking along this little creek. It's all peaceful, walking the dog, and then there was this little nook at the back of somebody's fence, along their property, and they put out eggs there, and they're like, just leave €1 and take half a dozen eggs, and it's a total honor system, and people were doing that
Yeah.
clearly. Nobody was just taking all the eggs and leaving nothing.
It is definitely a cultural thing in the US. And I see that all the time in various situations. I like, for instance, I love going to like the state forest or national forest to go shooting, like target shooting. Because I don't like being at ranges with the stupid rules and everything, and like I don't like being around a bunch of other people, like armed people that I don't know. Um, so I go out there, and like some of these popular places to target shoot, every time I go, I bring a garbage bag, not just for my stuff, but I go there and it's like there's shell casings all over, there's junk everywhere, it's just all over the place, and pieces of things that people brought out for targets and just left. And so I always haul out as much as I can, because I'm like, if I don't do something to help take care of this, we're going to lose that.
Yeah.
And it's already kind of happened at the Capitol State Forest, where they kind of closed off, they bulldozed up a bunch of roads and stuff so you can't get to some of these places because they trashed it. It's like, why not? It's the rule. You pack it in, pack it out, right? you know Leave no trace.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, okay, you're shooting like cartridges, bullets are going into the dirt, you're not going to dig them out, but at least pick up your shell casings. It's really annoying.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Although the lead is arguably much worse than the brass, right?
That's true. Although it's usually kind of limited to only certain areas where it's kind of like, oh, there's a kind of a berm that you can, like a kind of a backstop, and that kind of, and it's open space where it's kind of just like the perfect spot to set up your targets. But we do need a shift in culture. I think, like, we need to start taking care of things and not, because see, the tragedy of the commons, the problem with why that exists essentially is because people feel like, oh, someone else will take care of it. I'll just throw my shit out because there's someone will come and clean it up. And then everybody starts doing that. And then pretty soon it's trashed, because it's like, oh, I don't own it, it's not mine. it's taxpayer
Yeah.
funded or whatever. And so whatever, I'm not going to bother. I'll just piss on the floor in the bathroom, do an upper decker on the toilet, something like that.
I
And
mean
because they don't
that
care.
is why it's kind of like almost never free to pee in Germany,
Yeah, it's
which
free to
is
pee.
a little annoying.
Yeah.
Like we were at a grocery store, and my wife, like, being a German, was like, "Oh, grocery stores have to have a bathroom. That has to be a law." Like, and I had to pee, and so we went and asked, and they're like, "Yeah, 50 cents." And I was just like, "You know what? Never mind. We're like so close to home."
Yeah.
Like, just the principle of it, it's like, like we're actually here shopping and buying things.
I
Like,
know, but it's like they don't know that necessarily. If they just had open bathrooms, anybody could walk in, just go to the bathroom and leave. And
mm,
I understand both sides of that. Like, yeah, it really honestly, natural human functions, you have to pee, you gotta poo. We don't want a bunch of like all of that all over everywhere else. So having it free for people to just come in, but the problem is people trash it. And
yeah.
and it costs the store money, it costs the business money, especially if they have to come in and clean up a bunch of stuff or fix broken stuff. So having that kind of like gate essentially, so that you have to pay something to go in. That goes into the coffers essentially. That's where the toilet paper comes from, the cleaning service, whatever. I kind of get that, but also there should be more free
Yeah, I mean, I
public
hope they're
bathrooms.
cleaning it anyway. So it's like,
True.
they're
Oh well,
they're
if you
already paying someone the hourly wage to go
Mhm.
out of their way and do that as part of their job. So it's a little
It,
strange to.
I would if I had to pay to use a bathroom and I went in there and it was just like a horror scene, I'd be like, I'd be fuming. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, but I
I
paid
I
to
I
use this
have
bathroom.
seen that, like, where,
Mhm.
like, I've gone into a gas station and had to pay like €1 to get in there and pee, and it was fucking disgusting, and like smelled bad and everything. It's like, what the hell did I just pay for? Like,
I know exactly. Oh,
although that's rare. That is rare.
that's
Like, they're
true.
actually usually super clean, and they
Mhm.
even have like self-cleaning toilets here.
Oh
Have
wow,
you seen
that's
those before?
no.
Like as soon as you finish, like this like little robot thing like comes down and like
What?
cleans the toilet seat and stuff, and like, yeah, it's super
That's
cool.
that's cool. Wow, man. But
That
I
that's what
do,
you're paying for there, right?
yeah.
Like,
I do really appreciate Old Rat's comment though about people ruining it, and
hmm,
that's kind of tough. And that maybe this is where this guy's network would be better, because like nobody else would know that this space is here unless they use this site, and it's generally not going to be a bunch of scumbags necessarily. And you could, I, yeah, you'd have to have some kind of rules and enforce it somehow. Um, there's probably ways.
hmm,
But I do think that we need that more and more. And if the trends continue, we're really going to need it in the future. It's going to be like the only way to sort of have shelter and you know, have work. Um, because simply having shelter is not enough. There has to be some kind of employment to in the area,
right.
and being mobile is just like being, the 30s hobos and stuff. You just go where the work is.
Well, in
And
places like that, these little private network havens or whatever could even coordinate with local uh, places that often have day jobs or whatever, construction sites and yada
oh
yada, and
yeah,
just be
yeah.
like, hey, just like, give us a call every morning, say
Mhm.
what you're in need of, and we'll post it here on this bulletin board or something, like, looking for work today.
Yep, that's what I was just thinking. A bulletin board. You could just have that and just put
Yeah.
up business cards or flyers or whatever, and anybody come in. There's something to do.
Super
There's
old
always
school,
work.
but it works. I
I
mean, we were just
yeah
talking yesterday or so about how when we started a business, like coming up on 20 years ago, we
yeah
did it with like business cards stapled to paper flyers that we put up on telephone poles and
Mhm.
then the bulletin boards in the grocery stores and stuff, and we got business, and then from
Yeah.
there some word of mouth, so like
Yeah.
that's it works. It's old school, but it works.
Yeah. And I think we sent out a bunch of postcards. We selected various places like doctors' offices and things like that,
Mhm.
sent postcards out. And I think we got one something somehow at Fort Lewis. And
Yep.
then I remember it exploded from there. Like,
Yeah.
and I remember I was always going there. Always. There was one place, then another, then another, and another. Like, because they all talk. And I'm sure, they're sitting around this, the cooler or whatever. And like, oh man, my shit's breaking.
Scuttlebutt.
And the scuttlebutt. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, the old school stuff does need to make a bit of a comeback, I think.
Hmm. I agree. Um, if you Victoria's got a comment here. If you only advertise through mesh networks, you limit general public versus being just out in the open on the public internet. Yeah. Well, so
But you might slow the roll of the government smush,
this is
you know.
true. Yeah, if you kind of keep a low profile, um, maybe it'll flourish without the all-seeing eye.
Yeah, pros and cons.
Yeah, that's true. But I
But
mean,
going back to the word of mouth thing, like if you depend a little bit more, even though it's slower,
mhm,
on word of mouth is always a higher quality
yes.
advertising.
Oh
Bang
yeah.
for your buck is way
Mhm.
better because there is no buck, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Like people are doing that work for you for free, like so.
and
uh
and with word of mouth you might be able to reach a customer that would never have seen your advertisement or anything,
mhm.
that kind of
Mm.
thing.
Yeah.
And maybe in the case of word of mouth too, you get a more tailored uh description, I guess. If they're talking, oh yeah, this business, that they're going to interpret things in a way, or they're going to convey it in a way that the other person understands better. So like they're doing better advertising than you could do, essentially.
And you follow these YouTube channels and stuff, things like that. Um, that's on the internet,
Yeah.
So technically, I mean, of course, if the government wants to, they can get on the phone with Google and say manipulate the algorithm so nobody sees
Yep.
that channel,
Yep.
like they
We
do with
know
our
that they do that.
channel.
Yeah. We know they do that kind of thing. Yeah. Well, and I I do love the idea of there being this kind of network, though. I mean, because and even like the word of mouth, from what I've seen from this guy's channel, like the videos over the course of time, he's usually at these kind of remote areas where there's a whole bunch of RVs and trucks and stuff just kind of collected in this area. So guaranteed, those people are going to talk to each other,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing.
Hmm.
Uh,
I wonder, is there a way to make like a hacked kind of sub internet that could somehow function off of these sites as beacons or something, or something that gives people a rudimentary sort of way to use an internet that has absolutely no government interference whatsoever.
Well, you have onion routing and stuff like Tor that sort of works that way, and then there's blockchain systems too, that are like crypto essentially based,
Uh-huh.
sort of. You can definitely have kind of a shadow internet that just rides on the existing internet. That in fact, there's a lot of private networks that operate that way already.
Uh,
So no problem, as long as it's end-to-end encryption, you're fine.
yeah.
I
Hmm.
wouldn't necessarily rely on VPNs. Um, I think most of them are compromised. I'll just say that. Um,
Yeah.
but there's other things that aren't necessarily. good for wide area networks, like Meshtastic. So like within say a city or a town, you can have these modules that create a mesh network that's completely standalone.
Hmm.
They're not high speed. It's more for messaging, but that can exist too. That's a
Well, again, like the old school ways, they're, usually I'm a more of a proponent for progression,
mm,
but you know, sometimes the progression, like we were talking about this on Lightning Strikes Twice, um, that we recorded today, and like with AI taking over customer service, it's a total shit show.
yeah,
Like, so the old school ways are still definitely better.
yeah,
Um, and I feel like, I recently got rid of social media because like for a while it was actually improving upon social interaction.
mm,
And now I feel like it's completely detrimental. Uh,
yeah.
and and that's not really through the fault of us, like
Of
that's
course, yeah.
that's interference from uh, corporate interest
Well,
and
yeah, and I think it's also a product of ignorance,
mm,
not in a derogatory term, but like a lot of people aren't, they don't become aware of the trends of like how they're being manipulated until it becomes kind of extreme. Because like
yeah,
we could have easily nipped it in the bud a decade ago, but people are like, oh yeah, that's weird, but then they just kept on letting it go, and of course, yeah, the tendrils went deeper and deeper, until now it's just garbage. It's enshittification is what it is.
yeah,
Like Facebook is a good example of that. I remember, we used MySpace before that, like everybody did.
yeah,
And then Facebook came along and it's like, oh yeah, well, because MySpace suffered from a certain measure of enshittification where they had those easy page builders that you could just stuff it full of graphics, HTML stuff, like flashy graphics. Remember the glitter was everywhere, animated
yeah,
things, and it just became too much. It was cool that you could customize, but then along came Facebook where you couldn't customize, and it was
yeah,
very clean. It was very simple. And remember early days? It was like you would you had your friends, and the feed would have relevant stuff from your friends, and there were like no ads. I think there might have been like a little ad banner up in the corner or something, maybe. That
yeah,
was
yeah,
it.
yeah, ads, but
And then over time though, it twisted into something that wasn't good, not at all good for culture, society, but like for people's psychological state. Um,
hmm
because now we're obviously, I'm sure most people are aware that they crafted the algorithm to manipulate people. So they screwed around. They were basically we were guinea pigs essentially for their twisted. I don't know what kind of plan they have, but
yeah,
and it's designed to keep your eyes there more and more. So if you respond to things that make you angry, they're going to serve you up more stuff that makes you angry. If it, whatever it is, and so it isn't a very organic experience anymore.
yeah, and well, I mean that's the other end of complicated things that is a bit of a detriment is that it's easy for bad stuff to get tucked in there and lost in all the noise. Whereas if like a sub internet were just basically text interaction back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
like that's so simple that like you can't really sneak something in there unnoticed that
Well,
would,
it'd
you
be
know,
like IRC back in the day,
and what's that?
internet relay chat. Like
Uh,
it was an old like chat function, kind of like uh AOL instant messenger kind of thing. Maybe, I had chat rooms and things like that.
huh.
You could absolutely do that with mesh networking, like Meshtastic. Because I actually have a handheld computer that's got a whole bunch of radio stuff on it. And one of the things that it has is the LoRa radio system for Meshtastic. And even just in the area, I occasionally will communicate with somebody in the area. But what it does, it's established by the community. So there is no backbone, there's no infrastructure. You build it by all the devices that are active within it. So maybe you want to talk to somebody all the way across town, and it could be like 20 miles or something like that. And these little radios can't reach. But what it can do is ping through all the ones that are in between. And so you can create this huge network, communications network. And it's still in kind of its infancy to some extent, but it's definitely being developed, and it's getting a lot of popularity. More and more people are picking it up. Oh yeah, U console is awesome. Yeah, that thing is awesome. I love it, and it's completely open too. The whole entire platform is open. Like it's absolutely hackable. It's very cool. And that's what I use for Meshtastic. Oh yeah, and then we have Victoria. I don't scroll Facebook; it makes my chest hurt. Yeah,
same here.
And I quit Insta when they took my time. My in-time order option. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, it's kind of like with Facebook, where or even here in the live chat, where it automatically defaults to top chat because they want to show you the most important things. But since we only ever have two people watching, maybe three, I always just put it to live chat because I don't want to miss something, because YouTube decides it's, so Facebook and Instagram do that too, like rather than just show you stuff as they come out. Like I remember a time where Facebook, if you were just sitting there for a while, all of a sudden it would refresh and there'd be like the brand new thing that your friend just said 30 seconds ago,
Yeah, why isn't it in like temporal order? I don't get that. That's really annoying, because I will. Facebook is so stupid in that regard, because I'll jump on there from time to time, and then the very first thing is something, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'm about to respond to somebody, and I realize, oh, they posted that a month ago, so it's not even relevant anymore.
Right.
Like what happened?
So bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah, and now YouTube
your entire experience is completely manipulated.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and in order, the subscription feed in YouTube, that's a problem too. Like you actually have to manually go into your subscriptions, and then you'll find the most recent videos from them. Like it doesn't, the feed is all weird. And I mean, I do like though that more and more there have been kind of rando channels that have only like a handful of subscribers. It's kind of cool to see some of that sometimes, because you'd never run into that.
Yeah.
I
mean,
I don't.
There definitely needs to be more of that, like more use of the algorithm in a positive way to like help things, but we're never going to actually get that. Like no matter how much like it seems to be doing something cool, it's usually just temporary. Well, it's always temporary. Like they'll like we've had algorithm bumps before where all of a sudden we're getting a whole bunch of views out of nowhere, and then it just vanishes, like, and it's like, well, why? And
well, here's the deal.
What good did it do? Because obviously, like, we don't necessarily like pick up any, like, nothing gets dragged on that anchor into perpetuity, like.
I know. Well, yeah, exactly. And I guess the thing about that, why we have enshittification with these kinds of places, initially, maybe a small team developed something. Like Facebook was developed by a small team, although they did have funding from In-Q-Tel. So, interesting. Just let that brew in your head for a moment.
From the beginning?
Huh? Like early on.
Beginning. Yeah.
Early on. And so, but it was a small team, and they probably did care to make a decent product that functioned, right? Like that was their goal. It was just a bunch of people with a goal, and they're like, hey, we're going to make a cool thing. And they made the cool thing, and they slowly improved it over time. And then eventually the company got really big, and then they have shareholders, that kind of thing. You know how that goes. Fucking shareholders, they ruin everything.
Yeah.
But so then the goal doesn't become provide a good product to the people. It becomes, how do we make more money? And how do we make more money? By keeping people connected to it, keeping them stuck to this
Yeah.
flypaper, basically. And that's what they craft. So they, instead of making it a good product, they make it a product that manipulates people. And so that's why these things start sucking.
Yeah.
And it always goes that way every single time. Every time. It starts off, except for Craigslist. Craigslist is the one last bastion of the way the internet used to be and the way the internet should be. Like, it still is basically what it was back then. And the owners of the company, they're like, hard line of like, no, we will not change it. It's going to stay this way. We're lots of different companies have come in and tried to buy them out and this and that. And they're like, you know what? We're making millions of dollars and that's fine. No, we don't. What's the point? We're doing just fine.
There needs to be more people like that, honestly.
Absolutely.
Like,
Well,
money corrupts way too easily.
mm-hmm.
And once it does, it's far too easy to use the more and more and more money that these corrupted people get in order to corrupt the system even further, to
Yes.
funnel things more into their pockets. So
that's why the system of governance in this country is a corporatocracy. Like, it is a marriage between corporations and government, and that's bad. I mean, especially with what you're talking about there, and because if you have a company that just is like, there's an owner and they run the company and that's it. There's no board of directors. There's no, shareholders. Usually the company tends to be a pretty good one, like a good place to work. It's just generally good. But it's when you get those snakes, those Wall Street snakes that creep their way, they slither in, and then they start like contaminating, and it just gets gross. That's, look at every company that started off perfectly fine. Whenever they went public, and more people who didn't care about the company, they're just looking at a number. When those people start gaining control, well, then the vision that the original creator of that company or product had disappears, because now it's not theirs anymore. It's owned by other people, sometimes on the other side of the planet, that kind of thing. Like, so they don't care, and that now they have control, and so they're going to craft the company in a way that doesn't provide a good service, and isn't a good place to work, because they don't give a shit. And then, of course, like you said, they're going to take all of their profits and leverage the government to give them even more control and to push out the competition. Like, they don't want any competition. So, I mean, it's a tale as old as time, isn't it?
Yeah. Victoria says being rich is bad for your mental health. If we really cared for our millionaires, we would take away most of their money. Yeah, I mean, that, not like that. I do kind of agree with that, because, like, anytime there's talk of raising taxes on the mega rich people, it's always like, oh, we can't do that, they'll leave. And it's like, so let them, like, because when you actually like examine their impact on the economy, that they're actually, if anything, detrimental to the economy.
Well, I mean, it depends on who. Like I was saying, the sole proprietors, even if they're wealthy, generally provide a net positive. But when you have the corporate structure, like the stock market, that kind of thing, that is where bad things happen. That tends to be kind of, I would say, like a net negative in one fashion or another. It just depends on the company and what they do, obviously.
The
Because they're
stock
sort of,
market is definitely, like, we could do without it, in my opinion.
I agree. Venture capital is really the only thing anybody
Yeah.
needs. That
But I'm just talking about like people with like too much money that they could never spend and don't, like that there aren't any like micro transactions stimulating the local government that differ any more than just like another person who goes out and buys things every now and then. So like getting, like giving them preferable treatment just to keep them here. Like
I wouldn't.
that's not a valuable argument for me in any way
I don't.
whatsoever.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, I do kind of agree about that one aspect that, yeah, nobody should have special treatment at all. Just
hmm,
because you have more money or whatever, or more connections or something. No, the law should apply evenly and equally to every single person.
yeah,
There should not be an exception because, like, oh, you're a celebrity or something. Like,
right,
no, you get your ass beat just like everybody else. You
yeah.
know,
Like
like
going to a restaurant and being like, oh, there's no open tables, but don't you know who I am? And it's like, fuck you. Of course I know who you are,
exactly,
but
yeah.
fuck you. Like
I know.
that
Well, and
would be
that
my
that's
response.
that's a cultural thing that I think also should change. And
Yeah.
you'll find there's a fair amount of people with wealth that do philanthropic things, and maybe do things that like you or I couldn't do, like build a library or something like that. And that used to be a lot more common, and sadly, it seems to be a lot less common now, where that
Yeah.
you'd have these charitable organizations, like wealthy people would be like, well, I want to leave a legacy. So they take all their money and they create some organization for education or children's health,
Hmm.
or building hospitals and stuff like that. And that's good. I'd like to see a lot more of that, please. Uh,
I yeah, I did a minute microscopy on this years ago about how charity isn't really charity if you're just writing it off of your taxes, which is oftentimes the driving force behind many of these
it, it it
philanthropic ventures, right?
it is now, but
Yeah.
before taxes were like income tax was a thing, a lot of people just did it because they wanted to give back.
I mean, people do still do that, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
like out of the goodness of their heart, but like I feel like most of it is just to line their own pockets, especially when, I've read about there's these way loopholes that the rich stay rich, and it's always centered around the stock market, right? So you can do this thing where you like set up a certain, like you buy stocks specifically for like retirement purposes or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then like toward the end of the year you donate your stock to a charity, and
Mm-hmm.
then you like write that off in such a way so like instead of paying that amount in taxes, you can then just take that chunk of money you would have paid in taxes and buy more stock for your retirement because you just donated some of it. So you got to put your retirement money back, right?
Oh yeah,
So
the
so you
whole
take your
entire
what should be your tax money to go to the rest of the country's good needs and wants and stuff, and you just put it back into your own pocket.
well, and that's the problem. I think is that the snakes have infiltrated the system far too deeply, and altered it to where like basically the system incentivizes that behavior.
Yeah.
Like it isn't like, oh, me as a person, I just want to do this. No, you're actually incentivized by the system to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's, well, maybe we need to get rid of that.
And yeah, that charity maybe benefited from that, but I feel like that is such an empty gesture.
Yeah.
Like you only did that to put more money in your own pocket
Well,
and specifically to keep it from helping other people.
well
Like
then
you're
one
you're
one
helping a
way.
small group of people by just being like, yeah, I'll just put this over here. You're not even really thinking about it, probably. You're just like, oh, there's a charity. I'll just put it there.
Well, you
Uh,
might
You know,
even have like an accountant or something that's doing all that stuff for you,
right. Yeah.
you know? And well, and we need to get rid of that incentive then.
Hmm.
There should not be a write off for charitable donations. I donate to charity all the time. Income tax season, I never write it down. I'm just like, fuck it, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I did it because I wanted to help people.
Now,
you
I
know.
can see the argument that like taxes are there to help other people. And if you're
Mhm.
using that money to help other people anyway, whatever, like, okay, if,
That's a good
if,
point.
if your income is below a certain threshold, I can see writing off charitable donations.
Hmm.
But above a certain threshold, you have that fucking money like just sitting there anyway. Like so for people like you and I, if we wanted to, if we're like, oh, you know what, this is actually a lot of stuff and it cost me a lot of money and it will cost me a lot of money to replace it if I need to. Maybe I should keep the receipt. Like we should actually be able to write that off.
Hmm.
I do think that like that argument makes sense because, we're like, you know what, someone could use this right now more than me. We're
Yeah.
actually doing it for the good of somebody else,
Well,
but we also have to eat and worry
what if
about
there
shelter.
was what if there was like an upper threshold for charitable donation
That's
write-offs?
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, where it's like $100,000 or something like that. So it's like that covers everybody that is donating. But like, oh yeah, millions of dollars. Well, then that you can't write off anything above that particular threshold.
Yeah.
I would rather have taxes operate completely differently, but that's just me. I'd like something like the fair tax that would kind of fix all that shit overnight. And the government would be bringing in more revenue, and the people of limited means who aren't making as much money would be doing better. It's like, but they don't want to do that because the corporatocracy wants control,
Yeah.
and they want to be able to game the system, and well, that basically erases their ability to do that. And so, well, we just keep playing this game over and over and over again and bitching and moaning about it because ain't nothing we could do about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I still wonder about the math on the fair tax a little bit. But overall, like the principle of it is a nice idea.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Like
and I've maybe we should kind of also,
I wouldn't get rid of income tax. I would just make it literally just a very rich person thing. Like, you know,
which is what it used to be.
yeah,
Back in
just to keep it
1913.
from like just to kind of like round the top off, keep it from getting too out of control and crazy because with the fair tax, you would still have mega rich people and they would still be running the show. It
But anytime they
really
bought,
wouldn't fix anything.
whenever they bought a yacht, then there'd be like millions of dollars going into the coffer, like automatically. You can't get there's no exemption for that. You just have
Yeah.
to pay it.
How often are they buying yachts though?
Or houses or whatever. There's all kinds of different things.
Mm.
Um, well, and you have to contend with the Laffer curve too, which is like there's only so much tax you can tax before there's diminishing returns. So there's a sweet spot in there. It, maybe I'd like to see tariffs and a national sales tax like the fair tax be used as a revenue source for the federal side of things, and probably ultimately it trickles down to the state side too. Um, but that would make more sense, I think, because also that's harder to skirt around. I mean, if you look at the tax code in the US, there's like 2 pages that are like the taxes, and then the whole rest of that big ass book is all exemptions and other like exceptions and rules and all this and that. And it's like that wasn't crafted by accident. It was
Mm.
crafted by companies, businesses, like well-to-do people, connected people, the elites that set things up so they could win and you can lose. So I'd say just fucking scrap the whole thing. Just scrap
Yeah.
it and we'll start over with something better, simpler. Fair tax is great because you don't even have to think about it. Do you worry about filing for sales tax or something as a consumer? No, you go to a store and they just ring you up and you pay it. There it is. Like
Mm.
there's no paperwork well, there's paperwork for the business, of course. We Jesus. Oh my God. But like that would be easy. Then there's no thought involved, and there's no tricks that somebody could use to get around it.
Yeah. I think the VAT here, value added tax, is like 19% or something.
Yeah, that's kind of what they were considering for like the fair tax,
Yeah,
something
I think
akin to that.
they were like 21 or something. I
Mm-hmm.
think what's their number? 22, something like
Something
that.
in the 20s. Yeah.
27 actually. It was fairly high, but um
I don't think they were accounting for maybe incorporating tariffs into the mix, because that is, if you go back in time to the early days of the US, the whole entire federal government was funded by tariffs. Everything, all of the operations, it was just tariffs, like import. Whenever you import stuff, there's a fee for that. And all of that went to the government. And that's how they funded everything. And it's like, okay, well, how come they were able to, like, human civilization was okay with that? Like we were all right. There was a government, we were building things, and like, so why can't we do that again? you know, like I'd rather it be there's so many reasons too
it's
for
generally been a bad thing for the government recently though.
well,
Like
okay, because that's a bull in a china shop approach. Like
yeah, yeah.
it was completely haphazard. No, you need to, like, there should be like an across the board, like, just like, okay, every single thing 10%, everything. And oh, by the way, get rid of the fucking chicken tax too. By the way, oh man, that's I can't I can't get a Hilux in this country. Really annoying. Want that truck. But there's it could be done. And also, I do to some extent agree or side with the concept of producing domestically. Like we should be doing more of that. There's a lot of reasons for it: security, shipping costs, the environment, all this
Yeah,
stuff. Like
yeah.
we
Mhm.
should be doing more here. We used to do it. It's like you used to be able to make anything in the US. You didn't have to import a bunch of shit from out of the, well, maybe like certain materials that we couldn't mine here that didn't exist. Um, but apart from that, yeah, like everything was made in the US. And it's like, oh yeah, it was made right down the road. And there's a factory where you could go to work. You could start as a lowly button pusher and then work your way up to a supervisor, then like a manager, and then maybe eventually the owner of the company. It happened over and over and over again. And I'd like to see more of that, I think. And less AI, please.
Yes.
A lot less AI.
I'm 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 sick to death of AI. Like
Yeah.
it it's mm, it was shiny and new for a while and kind of fun, but it really all it's doing is you remember that site let me Google that for you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that's
Mm-hmm.
all AI is. Like
Mm-hmm.
it
I know.
just goes to the search engine and does the hard work for you of like reading stuff really fast and then summarizing it and hallucinating at the same time.
Exactly. Well, and now when you're talking industrial and commercial AI, there's different applications that are not quite the same. Like developing, like engineering a product. This is where AI is a useful tool, and it can work with engineers and not replace them, because it can never replace that kind of thing. Um, so it's like I see AI kind of just sort of becoming a background tool. Like, oh yeah, it's a thing that you run to do a particular thing. It's like a calculator, you know.
Mhm.
Like whenever I need to do some math I can't do in my head, I grab a calculator and I use it. Like that's what, and then I set it down, and it doesn't rule my life. It's not, you know, encompassing everything, but that's kind of what a lot of people seem to believe it
You're
will
not
become.
always going to have a calculator in your pocket.
That aged well, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that when back in school. Yeah.
I wonder what their argument now is for needing math. Like,
Well, people use calculators. Kids these days, you have calculators in class,
eh,
which is kind of weird. I don't know if I find it to be the a good thing, or I don't
it's
know.
it's
because it's
just a
like,
tool. You have to learn how to use it,
exactly.
like, so, eventually you get to a stage in math anyway where you have to have a calculator. It's
Yep.
like
Back before
required.
that, they had slide rules before that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, yeah, I don't know why there was so much like pushback against having a
I
calculator.
well, and to me, it would make sense to start off maybe in like elementary school. So you learn the principles, you understand the fundamentals of how math works, like the basic functions.
Hmm.
And then you just use calculators because I don't foresee a time in the near future where we don't have calculators and we need to do math. If World War III happens and we're thrown back to the Stone Age, well, we're not going to need calculators. We're not going to do any math at all. We're going to be digging holes and piling up rocks and shit. Like it, you don't need math at that point. So, yeah, besides then, you could probably just dig a bunch of solar calculators out of dumpsters or raid the rubble of a Dollar Tree or something like that. Plenty of calculators.
Oh man.
I yeah, I'm with you in the idea of like, yeah, progress is good, but not progress simply for the sake of progress. It has to actually improve the situation, whatever it might be.
Right.
Like, whatever thing is developed, whatever innovation is used, should be a step up from where you were before. Like
Yeah.
before calculators, people were doing stuff on paper or with like an abacus or something, and that was very slow and cumbersome and prone to errors. And with calculators, that fixed that. You could do math very quickly and without errors. Usually, keep your batteries fresh. By the way, but in so oh, I just saw a comment from Victoria pop up. The original point of stocks used to be to support a business you felt strongly about that needed seed funds. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's kind of how it should be.
I mean,
I
that's
mean,
venture
it's
capitalism.
venture capital, yeah, but it's more distributed venture capital. So
Yeah.
instead of one organization providing the funds, a community or a group of people can provide little bits of funds. It's like crowdfunding essentially,
Right.
which
Well, I
which
mean,
is
like a stock market would be okay to have if you like age out of it. Like
yeah.
you can only have stocks be in the market for 10 years or something,
Mm-hmm.
like, and after that, like you have to buy them back and run your business. Like you should have your feet firmly on the ground by that point. And if not,
Yeah.
you don't have no right to be a business. Like your business will fail then, like if
As
if you
it
can't
should if
hold
you're
on, then
yeah,
like
well,
sorry, not
maybe
sorry.
crowdfunding is the better way to go, where you buy into an idea, a project, a business, whatever. Someone's like, hey, I've got this cool product idea and I've got my prototype here. Look at this. I need, 1.5 million to build this out or whatever. And then if you give me this money, you pay some money in, you'll get something in return, be it a financial uh, kickback or a product, right? Early access to a product or something like that for less than it would be at retail. Who knows? I like that idea because it's a finite thing, right? You're funding a thing. Like, oh, here is like basically we want to build this building. Okay. So we crowdfund it and the funders get something in return. So they basically, they put in, they take the risk of like, well, it could not happen. It's possible. But if it does happen, they're promising me double what I've given them, or I don't know, whatever, something in return for that that's better than that I appreciate more than the money that I gave them. Um, and then
Yeah.
once it's done, when the building is up, well, that's it, done.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you all parties are fulfilled at that point.
Right. And if you have like a new project or something, just issue, brand new stocks or something that are basically earmarked for that project rather than like the overall like wealth of your company and stuff
Day
like
to
that.
day operations. Well,
And get
because
rid of all this shit like you have to turn a profit, and it's like
Uh,
like a legal thing.
It
Like
is, yes, legally, yes. And the
so dumb.
shareholders can dictate everything
Yeah,
depending on how much control you have in the business.
yeah,
And that is a problem because the people who built the business probably care. It's like how Gene Roddenberry cared about Star Trek and all the stuff that he was involved in, Star Trek stuff that he was building was, you could tell. It's like, wow, it's really thoughtfully built and crafted. Like, but then after he died, and I think Berman and some of the other guys left, and then it got swallowed up by mega corporations. Well,
mm-hmm.
you can see the garbage they produce now. They don't care. They're just like, oh, they're just standing on Roddenberry's dead back and just pissing all over the place because they're like, I'm still making money, man.
Yep.
And I don't want to see a world where that is the norm. That, but yet again,
To go back to the nomadic thing, though, like I feel like there should be a nomadic movement with technology too. Not to abandon it entirely, but to kind of go back to where it was really like in a bit of a golden age. Like functionality, um, and not being so integrated into our lives. Like it really was just a tool rather than an extension of ourselves,
this is
like
true.
like the cell phone has become like an appendage, you know.
It kind of has. Well, and there is a movement in a way. There's a lot of like the dumb phone movement. People are
Mhm.
getting like, oh, you can only call and text, and that's basically it. Maybe some of them you can take photos or something. MMS, SMS, and phone calls, and that's all it has. No internet, no apps, no nothing. I'd like that would be better. Disconnect from that, like because I guess we are the product of the golden age of that time period where we started off. When I was a little kid, we had a home computer, a Texas Instruments 99.4A,
Mhm.
uh, and it was just a standalone thing. You turn it on, you could play some games. They were cartridges, and then you
Yep,
could type in
I had one of those.
programs. You could type in a program and run it, but then when you turned it off, boop, it was gone, and you had to start all over. It didn't have any network connectivity,
Yeah.
and even as time went on, like up into the 90s and stuff, even when like the internet existed, you would sit at a computer. You would deliberately, there was a space that you would go to sit at, to interact with this machine. And then you would leave it. So if you, I don't know, went to the bathroom, the computer's up there. There's no interactivity with anything else. If you went for a bike ride, you couldn't talk
Yeah.
to people on AOL or whatever. Like you had to be at the computer to do that. So
I
you had to
miss
make it.
those TI days, man. Like,
Yeah.
like put the cartridge in, pull up your game, and I don't remember what the game was called, but there was like this text adventure game where it would like describe, like you just walked into a room or something. It was like a
Mm-hmm.
pirate game or something, and
Oh yeah, there were many, many of those on home computers. Zork is of course the most popular one that everybody knows about,
hunt the
but that wasn't on
wolves.
TI. That was on like other machines.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, text adventures. It's kind of like choose your own adventure books, basically.
And you'd put it on your TV, right?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
computer play, like you didn't have a monitor, you just plugged it into your TV, the giant 27-inch Zenith
Mm-hmm.
that weighs 5,600 pounds.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Well,
Yes,
and I
good
think
times.
maybe that's good for our collective mental health
Hmm.
to kind of maybe. I don't mean completely discard all the stuff. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
having a cell phone is very useful. Having GPS is extremely
GPS
useful.
is
Yeah.
definitely helped.
Like it's a game changer. It's like, I remember navigating by map and compass back in the day, and it was a pain in the ass. Uh,
Yeah.
if you went off track, you're like, huh, where the hell where am I on this map? It's kind of, um, so it's like there are tools that we have that are very beneficial. Being able to conduct certain operations online, like pay bills or do your banking or things like, okay, that's convenient because I can. in the middle of the night, I can transfer money from like savings to checking or vice versa. But if I wanted to do that back in the day, I'd have to like take time off of work and like
Right.
go stand in line at the bank and talk to
Mm,
a teller, and then they do that. And it's like, okay, so some of these things are convenient, but maybe we need to kind of temper our interactions with these things to minimize them a little bit. So it's like, well,
yeah.
we only do the things that really make sense, that are actually an improvement, and we cast off the stuff that's bullshit. And most of it is bullshit. Like even you do a search, Google's basically useless for searching, by the way. I don't know if you've ever done a search. It's like mostly ads and AI shit. It's AI
Yeah.
slop. And
Yeah.
almost every article is AI slop. Just actually, if you want to, you can usually tell by the way it's written.
Yeah.
But in an article, if you find an M dash or extensive use of M dashes, it's AI. A human did not write that. Um,
What's an M dash?
it's like a dash that's a little bit longer.
Uh,
Like if you took two dashes and stuck them together.
uh,
Yeah.
huh.
Let's see
Yeah.
if Victoria has had a.
I think she's not watching live anymore. She's commenting on things from like half an hour ago.
Oh,
So
okay.
she probably paused and went away for a bit and then just hit
Oh, that
play
could be. Yeah.
because then you're not live anymore. So
Mhm.
so she won't be in our she's not on the same space-time continuum as us yet.
Yes.
Uh,
It is kind of weird how that can happen too. Very strange. Um,
Rima,
well,
Rima.
yeah, oh, yeah. My tooth. I think I broke my tooth.
But my bladder's getting kind of full anyway, so
All right.
might
Yeah,
need
I'm
to.
I'm getting there as well. I don't know if we want to just at least briefly address the last comments. I'm not sure because of the timing what they're exactly related to.
Well, you started talking about tariffs, and I think she's talking about how that wouldn't work.
Oh
Um,
yeah, having to build it back up into
yeah.
existence from scratch. Yeah, that is kind of. I mean, and this is one of those things where we can look at how things are and how things were, and look back and recognize the changes that are not beneficial and
Mm,
those that are beneficial. Um, and it's tough because like it's so entrenched. That's the problem. It's bloated. The entire system. It used to be very lean and mean, and like there wasn't a lot to it. It was very very simple. And now, holy shit, it's so complex. And trying to undo all of that corrosion, I don't know how that could be done, especially because so many people are one unaware of the corrosion and or where it even is, um, and also unwilling to do anything about it. And so maybe yeah, going back to the nomad thing, it's like, well, okay, why don't we just we'll just do something different then? I guess
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it would be great to figure out a way to create some kind of like sub internet that doesn't require, depending on big companies and like government infrastructure and stuff, like not even Starlink, like just something else that
Well, like I
is
said, there's the mesh tastic
independent.
system that's local, and then you can have like onion routing, like
Yeah.
Tor.
Mhm.
Tor stuff is completely separate. There's the web, like the URL is completely different. It's not. If you're looking from the internet, the regular internet, through a browser down, you can't get into the Tor network. You have to. It's a totally different sub network.
Hmm.
Um, so that's an option. Utilize that more, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, man, you had another point that I was going to comment on. So, like it was a two-part sort of thing. Something popped into my head, and now I've lost it. Oh man,
Send that down to long-term memory retrieval.
exactly. Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't see things improving. I see it getting a lot worse before it gets better. But I
Yep.
think it will ultimately get better because everything's a cycle, you know? So eventually it's going to get really shitty and enough people are going to get angry and do
Mhm.
something about it, whatever that might be. And then maybe we'll have a little bit of a reset.
Yeah, I
And
mean
then,
that's kind of what happened with cable TV, right? Like
yeah.
it was an answer to like a shitty TV system, and
Mm-hmm.
then it became this better one that everyone wanted with no ads, and
Mm-hmm.
it was fairly affordable and stuff, and then it had ads, and then it became super expensive, and then it was ads, super expensive, and absolutely shit programming. So,
Yep.
like it's the
Well,
cycle.
and then, yeah. And then we had, streaming. Early days, the streaming stuff was really good.
Mhm.
You on demand kind of stuff. You could watch things, and there were shows, and there's basically one place like Netflix or something, and you'd have a small subscription fee, and then that subscription fee got more and more expensive, and then
Yeah. I
more things
remember
started popping up.
originally, like if you were on the DVD subscription thing, you could like also stream, but
Yep.
then you had to start paying extra, and
Mm-hmm.
then they split it into two different subscriptions altogether, and then they
Yep.
eventually just got rid of DVDs, I think.
Well, and of course, producers, companies that are making shows and stuff,
Yeah.
they started making things in various places. So now it's like, oh, you can't, if you had cable TV, your basic cable, all the channels in basic cable were there. There were the specialty ones like HBO, Cinemax, and stuff like that, but those were specialty, and they only showed movies usually. But you had all the channels. So if you went to your friend and like, hey, did you see that show? They probably did, right? But now it's
Yeah.
like there's like dozens of subscription streaming services, and it's like, I have friends that are like, oh, have you been watching such and such show? And I'm like, no, I can't. I, I'm not paying for that shit, man.
The
You know?
Netflix original.
Yeah, exactly. So now you're spending more than you did to have cable with all those fancy channels to, to basically have the same thing.
Hmm.
And they have ads too, of course. Like
Yeah.
that was another thing. Yeah, the streaming services, they didn't have ads, but now they do. And
Yeah.
then good luck finding something too. It's all, the algorithm is all twisted to make sure that you watch the stuff they want you to watch.
You know, this is a bit of an aside, but I am convinced that ads are useless anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I I feel like they they really don't produce business for people. Like
Yeah.
maybe here and there a suggestive person might be like, "Oh, I really want some Drano bleach because I just saw a commercial." Like
Mm-hmm.
it's got to be Drano.
Mm-hmm.
Like do people really think that way? Like for the most part though, I
I don't.
no idea. Like I'm very
I
skeptical that advertising does any good. It's the ROI is probably almost always a loss.
yeah.
Like advertising is
Well,
stupid.
the only function. Well, I was just trying to think of like anything I've seen on an ad in the last 20 years that I've actually gone and bought, and it's maybe like three things
Yeah.
of the thousands of ads that I've seen. Like
Yeah.
it's a couple of things that I'm like, oh, that's, or maybe I've checked it out. I don't know. Um, Reviews though, I have bought things because somebody reviewed it like that. It's like, oh, in fact, me and a partner like just last night saw a review for a burger deal that Sonic has, and we went and got it because of the review,
Hmm.
not because of an ad, but because of review.
Yeah. As
And
long
like
as they're not sponsored reviews, because then it's
no,
like,
they're
well,
not.
you
No, they're not.
paid to say good things,
It, yeah, you never know some these days, but um, I mean, it was. Oh, I ate the whole thing. It was delicious. But anyway, I think the only function for an ad might be like if you're introducing a new product that would be the only time an ad would make sense. That maybe you're a startup company that has something new and nobody could have ever heard about it. That's a potential use for ads. Or if you're a restaurant, fast food or whatever, and there's something new on the menu, you want to like get somebody, oh, hey, cool, there's this meal deal or something. Like those are the only real case, like situations where I could see that making sense and actually getting a return. But like drug ads, they're like, oh, ask your doctor. God damn, there's so many of those. Like there's so many ads. It's like, what? They don't even say what it does. I don't even think they're legally allowed to say what it does. So what's the point? Like, why would I contact a doctor and be like, is this thing, is Citigen right for me? I don't know.
I want to play football in a field with a happy
Yeah.
family.
Yep. Oh yeah, I
Is
remember
this
that
right
ad
for me?
for the erectile dysfunction something. I can't remember which one it was.
Or was it arthritis? Or
I No, because it was like there was all these, like it was symbolic, like throwing a football through a hole and like it was a very suggestive ad. I don't mind ads if they're really funny
Mhm.
or kind of like heartwarming or something. It's like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But generally they're just garbage.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you on that it's like a waste of money and it's a waste of people's time
Mhm.
to not only to watch it, but to even make it to begin with. Not
Yeah.
that anybody's making ads nowadays. They just fucking use AI to do it, you know?
Yeah. Oh man.
And let's see. Last comment there that I am side-eyeing a social media call to disengage from social media when social media is the best place to see the terrible shit terrible people are doing. Feels a bit astroturfed. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah, I mean that's a point. Um it is important to like keep an eye on what's going on, but you can always watch the news too.
well, and
Yeah, like
if our social media was anything properly designed, you'd be able to maybe like watch current events, right? Because people record all this stuff. Like if it was like kind of collected, say some event happened and
mhm.
everything tied to that event, all the videos and photos could be seen in one place from all kinds of people. That's actually pretty useful. It's actually better than the news in a way. Because like for a fact that a lot of media outlets twist their delivery of information uh, and not necessarily in a good way.
Yeah. But you also get the echo chamber effect with social media and
I know. And I don't
yeah.
know that there's ever going to be a way around that, sadly.
Yeah.
The only way around it is that we teach the next generation critical thinking so that they can differentiate between bullshit and reality,
Yeah.
basically.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, it's kind
critical
of a
thinking, the biggest enemy of the government.
yes. Oh, man. Well, and on that note, I suppose we probably should end things, but I don't want it to be a downer note. I mean, I, I encourage everybody to look into nomadic lifestyle and maybe watch some. Just there's hundreds of YouTube channels out there. I'll probably for the building out the property, I'll probably make that its own YouTube channel and I'll document every step of the way. But check it out because it it's not. It might be an interesting thing, if nothing else, just entertaining. Um, but I think it could be a good way of life for a lot of people. And they're not really considering that possibility because we've been conditioned to think of things in a completely different way. Uh,
Mhm.
and you just bend like the willow, like essentially that. Yeah, you can sit there and punch the surf, hoping that the tide won't come in, but it will. It
Willow couldn't bend that far. He was like 3 feet tall.
no, no, the plant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good movie, by the way. Love that. Um, the yeah, but there are just things that are, and we can. There's very few things we can actually do about it. But what this is something we could do about this particular situation for now. And I think if we do it right and build communities, and not kind of just helter skelter, everybody going their own way, lone wolf, like, well, that's how you die. That's that's how you lose the game. So the only way is if we all work together, and build communities. And I think it'll be a pretty good life.
Yeah.
So just something to consider.
All right.
All right,
Well,
everybody. Both our
time to
bladders
empty the
are.
bladder.
Yep. So thanks for joining us. Love the comments. Thank you so much. We'll be back again next week. And yeah, who knows what we'll be talking about, but it'll be fun. So come back next time and join us at the Sherry's Big Booth.